We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Beis Amud Aleph and Meseches Avodah Zara. This is Avodah Zarah Daf 32a. The Gemara continues with a statement of Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says, "Haycholo de shichar de aramo." If you have vinegar that's made of Aramean beer, Asr, it is forbidden, because they mix into it the sediments of yayin nesach, that's wine of libation, to Avoda Zara. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says, Ume otzar shari, if you're getting it from the storehouse, it's permitted, because kaven de ma'arvi bay, because if they would mix in the sediment in that situation, Mr. Sari, it would actually go bad, and therefore you know that they have not mixed in the sediment of yayin nesach in such a situation. Rashi explains Dordia Shemarim, again Dordia is the sediments, Umeotzer, if they bring it from the storehouse, Imheviu Min Ha'otzer Mikli, Ha'asoy Lakim, if they bring it from the storehouse from a vessel that's made that it should last contained inside that vessel, so then Mr. Sorry, then you know they haven't mixed anything in there, because Masriach Kishemashanoso, because if it's there for a long time it would actually go bad, and again that's why in that situation it is permitted. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, V'cheres Hadaryani, the Hadrianic earthenware is prohibited. My Hadaryani, what is the Hadrianic earthenware? Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says that Shmuel says, Cheres Shel Hadrainus Caesar. It actually was the earthenware of the Emperor Hadrian. And the Gemara continues, Kiyasar Rav Dimi Yamar, when Rav Dimi came, he said, Karka Besula Haisa, there was virgin land, meaning it was unworked land, Shalo Avda Adam Eolam, that nobody had worked that land ever. Avda v'nat, and what happened was as follows: they worked that land, they planted it, v'rami lechamra begulfi chivri, and then they put the wine into new vessels. It literally means white vessels. Umaitzi lehu lechamarayu, and these vessels, this earthenware, it absorbed the wine. Umetavru lehu bechaspi, and then they broke the earthenware into shards. V'daru bahadayu, and they carried it with them. V'chol heicha dematu taru lu v'shasu, and everywhere where they arrived, they would soak these in water, and then they would drink. Essentially, it would absorb this strong, very high quality wine, and the shards themselves could be used to create instant wine when they were put into water. Rashi explains, Shaladrainus Caesar, again it refers to the shards of the Emperor Hadrian, Kishayotze Begaisos Molichon Imo. When they would go out with the troops, with the soldiers, they would actually bring this with them. This was a way of essentially making a kind of instant wine. Rashi continues, Besula Shalonevda, again it came from this land that was never worked. Via Kol Kocha Kayim, it had all of its full strength, so it had very strong wine, and then gulfi, and then they put them into these new vessels, or literally white vessels, klecheres, again these were earthenware, chivri chadoshim demaiti, these were new, they were able to absorb, v'daru bahadayu nosin iman, they would carry these with them, and then tarulu sharnos amamayim, they would then soak it in water, and again that's the way that they would make this instant kind of wine. And the Gemara continues in comments. Some Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, "V'rishon shalanu," our first wine, meaning to say our best wine, kishlishi shalahen, is like the third time that they soak these shards. That's how good, that's how high of a quality the wine that was absorbed in these shards was. Rashi explains, Rishon shalanu yain meshuvach shalanu, our good wine, our best wine, einu ala kishlishi shalahen, is like their third wine. Kishu shari gimel pamim b'mayim, when you would soak these shards 3 times in water, hayu hamayim hashlishi meshubachen kiyayin shalanu, that third water that came out, that was just as good as our best wine. And the Gemara continues, they had the following question. What about using these shards to put them under the legs of the bed? The point of the question over here is, you're not using these shards in any way to get the wine that's absorbed in these shards, but you want to keep these shards to use them for other purposes. You want to put them under the legs of the bed to make the legs of the bed even. Do we say that if he wants to maintain these shards, but it's for another purpose, that would be permitted? Or do we say that that is prohibited? Rashi explains, the Yisrael over here, the Jew, he wants the yayin nesach to stay around. He's not destroying the shards, but he doesn't want it for the yayin nesach. He just wants the shards themselves, again, in order to support the bed. What would be the halach? Is that permitted, or is that asur? And the Gemara continues, Tashma, come in here the following proof. The Rebbe Lazar of Rebbe Yochanan, it's actually a machlokas between Rebbe Lazar and Rebbe Yochanan. Chad asar v'chad shari. One says it's prohibited, and one says it is permitted. We'll read the parentheses. V'hilchas, and the halacha is, command the asar, like the one who says that it is prohibited. And the Gemara continues, Meisvei, we have the following question from a Brisa. Hadardurin v'harukvos, Rashi says, Hadardurim leginim ketanim, and rukvos tirgama shel chamos rukva v'hein shel or. The dardurim are like small jugs, and the rukvos, that's made out of hides, also containers made out of hides. Shalovde kochavim, these belong to the idol worshippers. Yayin shel Yisrael kanus behen, if you have the wine of a Jew that is contained within these containers, so the halacha is, asr b'shasiyah, it's forbidden to drink that wine, umutter bahana, but it is permitted to get benefit from that wine. And the Brisa continues, Heyed Shimon ben Goda, Lefnei beno shel Rebbe Gamliel. Shimon ben Goda testified in front of the son of Rebbe Gamliel, al Rebbe Gamliel, about Rebbe Gamliel, sheshasa mimenu ba'ako, that he actually drank from such containers in Akko, velo hodulo, but they did not admit to him, they did not admit that that was correct. And the Brisa concludes, and this is the part of the Brisa that we're bringing the proof from, Nodos shalov de kochavim, the wineskins of ovdei kochavim, of idol worshippers. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel omer mishum Rabbi Yoshua ben Kfusai. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says in the name of Rabbi Yoshua ben Kfusai, Asur lasos mehen shtichin lechamor. It's forbidden to use them to make blankets for a donkey. And so the Gemara asks, V'hacha, but over here, the roads of bekum al yedei davar acher. Here again, you're not using the wineskins for any kind of wine, so there's no concern of the wine that is absorbed within them. Rather, you're using them for something else. In this case, you're using them for the donkey. V'katani dasr, and what does the Brisa say? The Brisa says that it's forbidden. But the Gemara continues and asks, V'lataymich, but according to your reasoning, if you're going to bring a proof from this case of the nodos of ovdei kochavim, what about kankanim shel ovdei kochavim? What about the jugs of ovdei kochavim of idol worshippers? Litzeru lemizvan, it should be forbidden to sell them, but we sell them all the time. And so therefore we see that when it's rots bekum al yedei davar acher, it actually is in general permitted. Ma'ishna nodos, so ma'ishna kankanim. What's the difference between the wineskins and between the case of the jugs? And the Gemara continues and answers, Amar Rava says, Gezeira shemi yibaka nodo. In the case of the wineskins in the Brisa, there's a very specific decree. There's a decree that maybe his own wineskin is going to break, v'yitzlenu v'yisprenu agabe nodo, and then he'll take this wineskin of the ovdei kochavim that again he was using for the chamor, and he's going to sew it onto his own wineskin, and that's of course going to be a problem because now you're actually using it to contain wine, and that's the reason for the gezeira in the case of nodo shel ovdei kochavim. But the Gemara continues and asks, but still, now we have a question from Kankanim. According to the one who says that rotze b'kiyum al yedei davar acher is asur, again, by the Hadrianic earthenware, you're not allowed to use them, for example, by the legs of the bed. So ma'ishna kankanim desharu. What's the difference by the jugs that we just said that we sell the jugs and we don't consider it to be prohibited? Why is it different by the Hadrianic earthenware? And the Gemara says, Amar Loch, that man Amar will say to you, Hasam lese li sure be'ene. Over there, the Yisr is not really be'en. It doesn't absorb much in the case of the Kankanim. But over here by the Hadrianic earthenware, ise li sure be'ene. That's actually much stricter because it's as if the Yisr is be'en is right in front of us. As we said, there's a strong absorption in that situation, and that's why the prohibition was specifically and only in that particular case. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Brisa said above, Velo hodulo, they did not admit to him. That's concerning the testimony with regards to Rebbe Gamliel, that he would drink the Jewish wine out of these bottles of ovdei kochavim. And the Gemara asks, Uramini, we have the following contradiction from a Brisa. Yayin haba berukvo shel ovdei kochavim. Again, you have wine that's in the bottles of ovdei kochavim, of idol worshippers. Asur b'shasi, it's forbidden to drink it. Umutter bahana, but it's mutter to get benefit. Heyed Shimon ben Goda lefnei beno shel Rebbe Gamliel. Shimon ben Goda testified in front of the son of Rebbe Gamliel, al Rebbe Gamliel, about Rebbe Gamliel, shashasa mimenu ba'ako, that he would drink out of it in Akko v'hodulo, and they did admit to him. So it's a contradiction whether lo hodulo or hodulo. Did they admit that it's okay, or did they not admit that it is okay? And the idea of the leniency seems to be that if these bottles were used for the wine of ovdei kochavim, but only on a short-term basis, it didn't really store it. So in that case, it doesn't really absorb the wine. You could just rinse out the bottles and use them for the kosher wine. But again, the question is whether hodulo or lo hodulo. And the Gemara says, "My lo hodulo de kamar." When we said in the earlier brisa lo hodulo, they did not admit to him de kamar hasan that we said over there. That means kol siyatu. That means everybody that was around the rabbanon, they did not admit. Alvol beno modile, but his son, meaning the son of Rebbe Gamliel, he actually did admit that that's what Rebbe Gamliel did. That's one answer. The Gemara continues with another answer. If you want, I could say another answer. Gudol lechud v'godol lechud. There's actually two different individuals individuals that are mentioned. There's Shimon ben Goda, that's in the second brisa. It says Shimon ben Goda with an ayin, and then in the earlier brisa it says Shimon ben Goda with an aleph, and so therefore those are two different testimonies. Rashi explains, Goda l'chud v'Goda l'chud l'zeh lohoda. He didn't admit to that first one, v'lazeh hoda, but then when there was another testimony, a second time, then he admitted, acharechein, he admitted later on. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, v'yoros levuvin, hides that have a tear by the heart, that's also prohibited. It's assumed that it was used in the service of Avodah Zara. The Gemara says, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Ezo or lavav, what exactly is or lavav? Again, hides with a tear by the heart. Kol shekarua keneged halev, anytime there's a tear by the heart. V'kader kimin aruben, it's shaped like a window. Yesh olav kort dam aser, if there's a little bit of blood, then it's prohibited. Rashi explains, shekera shalo keneged halev, the tear is by the heart. Shekein derech ovet kochavim, this was the way of the idol worshippers. Lahotzi derech osokera, they would take through that tear, halev, they would take out the heart, shell shore of the ox, mechayim, while the ox was alive. And so if you see that tear, it indicates that that was done, and again used for Avodah Zara. The kader is kader kenekev agol. Kader means it's like a round incision. Yeshal of kordam galdi, if it has a little bit of blood, then also, then it's forbidden, because then biyadua, then it's known shemechayim nikra, that it was torn while the animal was alive. And we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Beis Amid Beis.